Amara's
How
father
many
spits
times
at
must
her
I tell
feet
you
in the
not to
village
wear this
square.
abomination?
You bring
You
shame
shame
to
this
our
family.
family name. You are dead to me. He rips the coral beads from her neck,
You are no
her
longer my
late
daughter.
mother's only gift. The beads scatter across red dust. Each one marks a year of her mother's love, now trampled by 300 silent witnesses. Her father, Namdi, turns his back. Amara reaches for one bead. He kicks dirt over her hand. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do, while the person who should protect you becomes your judge? This is one of the most powerful life stories from African stories tradition, where touching stories of injustice meet real-life stories of survival. A palm wine seller would take Amara in when no one else would, but what she discovered in her ledger would destroy a chief's lies forever. 3 days earlier, Amara had scrubbed Chief Okonkwo's marble floors until her knees bled. She was 19, orphaned at 12 when her mother died of fever. Her father, Namdi, worked as a fisherman, 40 cowries deep in debt to the chief. That debt kept Amara working in the chief's household 6 days a week for wages barely enough to buy cassava. Chief Okonkwo's wife, Ego, ruled the house with cold efficiency. She wore her status like armor, gold jewelry, imported wrappers, that ivory comb always tucked in her hair. On feast days, she smiled for guests. Behind closed doors, she watched Amara with narrowed eyes. The feast celebrating the chief's 25th wedding anniversary filled the compound with 200 guests. Amara served pepper soup and pounded yam, invisible among the celebration. She noticed young Tunde, the 12-year-old houseboy, hovering near the kitchen. He dropped a tray of glasses. The crash silenced conversations. Chief Okonkwo's voice cut through the courtyard. "Useless boy! Go help the girl clean this mess." Tunde's hands shook as he swept broken glass beside Amara. She whispered, "It's okay. Accidents happen." He wouldn't meet her eyes. The next morning, Ego's scream shattered the dawn. "My wedding ring! Someone stole my wedding ring!" Amara was scrubbing the courtyard when Ego stormed out, the chief behind her. Ego's finger jabbed toward Amara. "Only she had access to our bedroom yesterday." Only her. The ring was gold, inscribed with EOK 1998, their marriage year. According to Igbo custom, theft carried a punishment of 21 days of public shaming, followed by permanent banishment from the village. The accused had 7 days to present evidence of innocence. Chief Okonkwo's face was stone. Search her belongings. They found nothing in Amara's small room, but Ego wasn't finished. Check again, under the mat. Behind the water pots. Elder Chukwu, the village's senior judge, arrived within the hour. He was 70, with scars across his knuckles from decades of farming. "This is a serious accusation, Chief. We must follow proper procedure." "The law is clear," Chief Okonkwo said. "She was alone in our quarters. The ring vanished. She must have taken it." Amara's voice was steady despite the fear clawing her throat. "I did not touch your ring, sir. I cleaned the room as I always do." "I saw nothing." Ego's laugh was sharp. "Of course you'd lie. Your father owes us money. You probably plan to sell it and run away." The words hit like stones. Amara's father, Namdi, arrived, summoned by a neighbor. He stood at the compound gate, hat in his weathered hands. Chief Okonkwo addressed him with casual authority. "Your daughter is a thief, Namdi. What do you say to that?" Namdi looked at Amara. For one moment she thought she saw doubt flicker in his eyes. Then his shoulders sagged. "If the chief says she stole, then she must have."
"Papa!" Amara's voice broke. "Silence!" Namdi's shout surprised everyone, including himself. "I have 3 sons to marry off. I cannot have a thief's name attached to this family." Elder Chukwu raised his hand. "The trial will be in 6 days. Until then, the girl may remain in her quarters. Chief, you must also present evidence." But the damage was done. By sunset, the entire village knew. Amara walked to the well for water. Women turned their backs. Children whispered and pointed. One old woman spat on the ground as Amara passed. The next morning, Namdi came to Chief Okonkwo's compound. He found Amara sweeping the courtyard. His face was hard, carved from shame and fear. "Pack your things. You bring disgrace to our name." "Papa, please, I didn't steal anything. You know me." "I know your mother spoiled you with those fancy beads. I know you always wanted more than our life could give. Now look what you've done." He grabbed her wrist and dragged her toward the village square. Amara stumbled, trying to keep pace. "Papa, wait, let me explain." "There is nothing to explain." 300 people gathered as word spread. The evening market was in full swing. Yam sellers, palm wine vendors, cloth merchants. All activity stopped. Namdi pulled Amara to the center of the square, beside the old baobab tree where announcements were made. His voice carried across the crowd. "My daughter Amara has been accused of theft by Chief Okonkwo. I believe the accusation. As her father, I hereby disown her. She is no longer part of my family. Her name will not spoken in my house." Amara's knees weakened. "Papa, number, please look at me. Look at my face and tell me you believe I'm a thief." But Namdi wouldn't meet her eyes. Instead, he reached for the coral bead necklace at her throat, the one her mother had strung 19 years ago, adding 1 bead for each birthday. He yanked it hard. The string snapped. Beads bounced and scattered across packed earth, red as blood in the sunset light. "These were Mama's," Amara whispered. "Your mother is dead, and now you are dead to me." He turned and walked away. His back was rigid, his steps measured. Amara dropped to her knees, searching for beads in the dust. Her fingers closed around 3. A young man kicked dirt over her hands. Someone laughed. Elder Chukwu tried to intervene. "Brother Namdi, this is extreme." Wait for the trial. But Nnamdi was already gone, swallowed by the crowd. Amara stood slowly, 3 coral beads in her palm, 300 pairs of eyes watching. She walked toward the forest path, barefoot, with only the wrapper on her back and her mother's beads clutched in her fist. At the edge of the square, Mama Ngozi watched from her palm wine stall. She was 55, a widow with deep lines around her eyes and hands strong from years of tapping palm trees. Her ledger lay open on the wooden counter, a thick book where she recorded debts, payments, and things people thought she didn't notice. She closed the ledger slowly. Her jaw tightened, and she began walking in the same direction Amara had gone. Amara slept under the iroko tree that first night. The forest edge was forbidden to unmarried women after dark, but she had nowhere else to go. She pressed her back against rough bark and watched stars appear through the canopy. Her 3 coral beads lay in her palm, warm from her body heat. She didn't cry. Tears felt too small for what had happened. Dawn came gray and cold. Amara's stomach cramped with hunger. She had eaten nothing since yesterday's breakfast. The village was waking. She could hear roosters and distant voices. She couldn't go back, not to her father's hut, not to the market, not anywhere. Footsteps on the path made her freeze.
A figure emerged carrying a clay pot and wrapped banana leaves. Mama Ngozi set both items on the ground 3 feet from Amara. Plantain and beans, still warm. Amara stared at the food. "I can't pay you." "Did I ask for payment?" Mama Ngozi's voice was rough but not unkind. She settled on a nearby stump, catching her breath. "Eat, child. Hunger doesn't care about pride." "Why help me? Everyone thinks I'm a thief." "Everyone thought I poisoned my husband 20 years ago." Mama Ngozi's eyes were distant. "He died of heart failure in his sleep." "But his brothers wanted my land. They accused me of witchcraft. Took 3 months and a traveling doctor to prove the truth." Amara unwrapped the plantain slowly. The smell made her dizzy. "What happened after?" "I kept my land, lost most of my friends, learned who mattered." Mama Ngozi stood, dusting off her wrapper. "I need someone to collect palm sap at dawn. Pays 200 naira a day. You interested?" "I don't know how." "I'll teach you. Work starts tomorrow." "There's a room behind my shop. Small, but the roof doesn't leak." She started walking back toward the village. "Oh, and child, keep those beads safe. Your mother would want you to." Amara watched her go. Then she ate every bite of food, folded the banana leaves carefully, and followed. The room was barely 8 feet square. 1 window, a straw mat, a wooden crate for belongings. But it was clean and private. Amara set her 3 coral beads on the windowsill where morning light would touch them first. That afternoon, Mama Ngozi showed her the palm trees. "We tap before sunrise when the sap flows sweetest. Climb careful, these trees are older than your grandfather. Hang the calabash just so. Come back after 2 hours and collect." Amara's hands were soft from housework. By the 3rd tree her palms blistered. Mama Ngozi wrapped them in clean cloth. "They'll toughen." Everything does eventually. Days blurred into routine. Wake before dawn. Climb 12 palm trees. Collect the sap. Boil it down into wine. Serve customers. Save every kobo Mama Ngozi paid her. Sleep dreamlessly. The village children threw stones on the 4th day. Amara was walking to the stream when 3 boys blocked her path. The oldest couldn't have been more than 9. "Thief! Thief! Your father says you're dead." A rock hit her shoulder, then another. Amara kept walking, head down, arms protecting her face. The boys followed, chanting. An older woman watched from her doorway and did nothing. Mama Ngozi appeared like a storm. "Enough! Go home before I tell your mothers." The boys scattered. The woman in the doorway closed her shutters. "Don't let them see you bleed," Mama Ngozi said quietly. "Predators chase what runs." On the 6th day, Amara saw her brothers at Sunday market. Chidi and Obi were 21 and 17, both wearing new shirts their father must have borrowed money to buy. They were courting girls from neighboring villages. Marriage negotiations cost money. Money the family didn't have if they carried a thief's shame. "Chidi," Amara called softly. He looked right through her and kept walking. Obi, at least, had the decency to look uncomfortable before following. That night, Amara stood at the small stream behind Mama Ngozi's compound. Moonlight turned the water silver. She held her 3 coral beads and let herself pray for the first time since the accusation, not words. Just silence and breathing, and the hope that truth mattered somewhere, to someone. She washed the beads gently. They gleamed like fresh blood. The 7th day brought news. Ego was spreading a new rumor. Amara must have sold the ring to traveling merchants who passed through last week. How else could it have vanished, she told women at the market. That girl was always too clever for her station. Amara heard this from a customer at Mamangozi's stall, an old man who still nodded at her when others looked away. She thanked him and went back to work, bottling palm wine with steady hands. But inside, something was shifting. The first week she'd cried silently every night. The second week she hummed her mother's lullaby while working. Now, during the third week, she found herself smiling at customers. "Good morning, sir." Fresh palm wine, sweet like justice. The phrase made Mamangozi laugh. "I like you, girl. You bend, but don't break." One evening, as they closed the shop, Mamangozi pulled out her ledger. The thick book's pages were covered in careful handwriting. Names, dates, amounts owed. "Chief Okonkwo," she said, running her finger down a column, "bought palm wine on credit 17 times this year. Owes me 15,000 naira. Amara looked up from sweeping. That much? Gambling debts eat men from inside. Mamangozi tapped another entry. And see here, 3 weeks ago he came in asking about pawn shops in the next town. Said he had a family heirloom to sell. I told him about my nephew who trades in Onitsha. The broom stilled in Amara's hands. Did he sell something? Don't know, but men don't ask about pawn shops when they're flush with money. Mamangozi closed the ledger. Tomorrow I'll send word to my nephew. Let's see what the chief pawned. Hope felt dangerous, like touching a hot coal. Amara set it aside and focused on what she could control: climbing trees, collecting sap, saving money, staying alive. The 5th week brought an unexpected encounter. Amara was at the stream washing calabashes when she saw young Tunde. The houseboy stood upstream, staring at the water. His thin shoulders shook. "Tunde?" He spun around, eyes wide with fear and something else. Guilt. I didn't mean," his voice cracked. Didn't mean what? But he was already running, crashing through undergrowth like something hunted. Amara watched him disappear. Her heart beat faster. Mamangozi's words echoed. That boy knows something. That evening, Mamangozi's nephew arrived from Onitsha. He was 30, a traveling merchant with sharp eyes and a satchel full of goods. He spoke quietly with his aunt while Amara served them palm wine. "Show her," Mamangozi said finally. The nephew pulled out a crumpled receipt. Amara's hands trembled as she read it. Date, 3 days before the feast. Item, 1 gold wedding ring. Inscription, EOK 1998. Pawned by Chief Okonkwo. Value, 25,000 naira. The floor tilted. Amara sat down hard on a wooden stool. "He pawned his own wife's ring," Mamangozi said. 3 days before he claimed it was stolen. "Why?" Amara's voice was barely audible. "Gambling debts. My nephew says the pawn shop owner is Chief's cousin, won't testify against family." But this receipt is real. Will Elder Chuku accept it as evidence? Mamangozi's expression darkened. Custom law requires 3 witnesses or a full confession. A receipt alone won't be enough. The chief's cousin will deny everything. Amara stared at the paper. So close. Truth was right here on a piece of crumpled paper, and still not enough. "There's more," the nephew said. The same day, Chief Okonkwo asked about buying the ring back in 1 month. He said he just needed to resolve a small matter first. Understanding crashed over Amara like cold water. He was going to claim I stole it, wait for me to be banished, then find it somewhere and say I'd returned it under pressure. His wife would never know he pawned it. And his debt to the gambling collective would be paid. Mama Ngozi folded the receipt carefully. But then your father disowned you early, moved up the timeline. Now Chief's trapped. If the ring suddenly reappears, people will ask questions. Day 6 arrived. 1 day remained until the trial. Amara stood at the stream again, as sunset painted the sky red and gold. She held her 3 coral beads and prayed without words. The water moved endlessly forward. She thought of her mother, who'd strung 19 beads with patient hands, who'd taught her that grace was a choice, not a feeling. "Mama," she whispered, "tell me what to do." The stream didn't answer. But as she turned to go, she saw Tunde standing at the tree line. This time, he didn't run. "I need to tell you something," he said. His voice was small, eaten hollow by shame. "I need to tell you what I did." Tunde sat on a fallen log, his thin frame shaking. Amara waited. She'd learned patience in the last 3 weeks, learned that silence could hold more than words. "The chief told me to do it," Tunde finally said, 2 days before the feast. "He gave me Madame Ego's wedding ring and told me to hide it in your room, under your sleeping mat." Amara's breath caught. "Why?" "He said it was a test, to see if you were honest. He said if you found it and returned it, you'd get a reward." Tunde's eyes filled with tears. "I believed him. I'm stupid. I'm so stupid." "You're 12 years old," Amara's voice was gentle. "You're not stupid. You were used." "But I planted it." "I'm the reason everyone thinks you're a thief." The words burst out of him, raw and desperate. "I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My grandmother says lies eat boys from the inside, and I feel like I'm dying." "Tunde," Amara knelt in front of him. "Look at me. You can fix this. You can tell the truth tomorrow at the trial. Chief will beat me. He'll tell my mother I'm a liar, and she'll send me away. Then we make sure everyone hears you at once, in public." "Where the chief can't touch you." She squeezed his shoulder. "Can you be brave one more time? For real this time?" Tunde wiped his face on his sleeve. "Will you forgive me?" "I already have." The boy cried then, hard and broken, the way children cry when they've carried adult burdens too long. Amara let him. When he was finished, she walked him to the edge of the forest and watched him disappear toward the village. Then she ran back to Mama Ngozi's shop. The older woman was closing up, stacking empty calabashes. When she saw Amara's face, she set them down carefully. "Tell me." Amara told her everything, about Tunde, about the planted ring, about Chief Okonkwo's cruel insurance plan. Mama Ngozi's dies went hard as river stones. So he pawned the real ring to pay his debts, told the boy to plant it in your room, planned to discover it after you were banished and claim you'd returned it. His wife never learns he sold her wedding gift, and he looks merciful for forgiving a thief. Except my father disowned me early and ruined the timeline. And now Chief can't produce the ring without explaining where it's been. Mama Ngozi smiled, sharp and dangerous. "We have the receipt. We have Tunde's testimony. That's 2 pieces of evidence. We need 1 more to meet the 3-witness requirement. The pawn shop owner won't testify. But there's someone else who might." Mama Ngozi pulled out her ledger again, flipping to a marked page. "Ego's sister, A Daisy. She came to buy palm wine 3 weeks ago, drunk, crying, said her sister's marriage was a lie, that Chief Okonkwo had gambling debts bigger than a yam harvest. Amara leaned forward. Would she testify? If she knew her sister was being made a fool of? That chief let an innocent girl take the blame for his theft? Mama Ngozi's smile widened. A Daisy has hated the chief for years. This would give her power in the family. Oh yes, she'll testify. They worked through the night, planning. The trial was set for noon tomorrow in Chief Okonkwo's compound. Custom dictated the accused stood before 3 village elders while witnesses presented evidence. The compound would be full, 200 people or more, everyone eager to watch justice or spectacle. We let them present their accusation first, Mama Ngozi said. Let Ego and the chief weave their story. Let them commit to their lies in front of everyone. Then Tunde speaks. Then Tunde speaks. Then I present the receipt. Then Adeze confirms the chief's gambling debts. Mama Ngozi's finger tapped the table like a judge's gavel. 3 witnesses, 3 pieces of truth. And the chief, trapped by his own lies in front of the entire village. Amara felt something unfamiliar rising in her chest. Not hope exactly, something stronger. What if they still don't believe us? What if the chief's position is enough? Then we've lost nothing you didn't already lose. Mama Ngozi met her eyes. But truth has weight, child. It sinks deep while lies float and scatter. Trust that. As dawn broke, Amara washed her face at the stream one last time. She dressed in the clean wrapper she'd bought with her saved wages, simple but dignified. She tied her 3 coral beads around her wrist where everyone could see them. Mama Ngozi braided her hair, fingers quick and sure. Your mother would be proud. You didn't beg, didn't break. You worked and waited for truth to ripen. I'm scared. Good. Fear means you understand what's at stake. Mama Ngozi finished the braid and rested both hands on Amara's shoulders. Now let's go show them what quiet strength looks like. The walk to Chief Okonkwo's compound felt both endless and too short. Villagers stared as they passed, some with pity, most with curiosity, a few with naked hostility. The compound was already packed. Women sat on woven mats under the courtyard awnings. Men stood in clusters, talking in low voices. Children perched on compound walls. The 3 village elders, Chukwu, Okafor, and Udoka, sat in carved wooden chairs at the head of the space. Chief Okonkwo sat to their right, elevated slightly on his own chair like a throne. Ego stood beside him, that ivory comb tucked in her carefully wrapped gele headpiece. Amara's father, Namdi, stood at the back, arms crossed. He still wouldn't look at her. Elder Chukwu raised his hand for silence. We gather for the trial of Amara, daughter of Namdi, accused of stealing a gold wedding ring from this household. Chief Okonkwo, present your evidence. Chief Okonkwo stood. He wore his finest agbada, deep blue with gold embroidery. Authority radiated from him like heat. Elder, the facts are simple. My wife's wedding ring vanished the day of our feast. Only this girl had access to our private quarters. We found no ring in her possession, which proves she hid or sold it quickly. She must confess or accept banishment according to our law. Ego stepped forward, her voice trembling with practiced grief. That ring was my mother's before it was mine. 25 years I wore it. This girl repaid our kindness with theft. I want justice. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Amara felt the weight of their judgment like stones.
Elder Chukwu turned to Amara. "What do you say?" Amara stood. Her legs felt like water, but her voice came out steady. "I did not touch the ring, Elder. I cleaned the room as I always do. I saw nothing. I took nothing." "Then where is it?" Ego's voice rose. "If you didn't steal it, where did it go?" "That's a very good question," Mama Ngozi said, stepping forward. "Perhaps we should ask the chief." Chief Okonkwo's face darkened. "What are you implying, palm wine seller?" "I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts." Mama Ngozi pulled out the pawnshop receipt and held it high. "This receipt shows that you pawned a gold wedding ring, inscribed EOK 1998, 3 days before your feast, for 25,000 naira." The crowd erupted. Gasps and shouts overlapped. Elder Chukwu banged his walking stick against the ground. "Silence! Let her speak." Mama Ngozi's voice cut through the noise. "Chief Okonkwo, would you like to explain why you pawned your wife's ring and then accused an innocent girl of stealing it?" Ego's face drained of color. She turned to her husband. You told me it was stolen." "That's a forgery." Chief Okonkwo pointed at the receipt. "Anyone can forge a piece of paper. Who would believe this woman over a chief?" "Then let's call the pawnshop owner," Elder Okafor said quietly. "My cousin runs that shop. He's in Onitsha. He can't come today." Chief Okonkwo was speaking too fast now, stumbling over words. "We don't need him." Young Tunde stepped into the center of the courtyard. His voice was small but clear. "I can tell you what happened." Every head turned. Ego's hand flew to her chest. "Tunde, what are you—" "The chief told me to plant the ring in Amara's room," Tunde said. Each word seemed to cost him. 2 days before the feast. He gave it to me and said it was a test, but it wasn't a test. He lied to me. He used me to destroy her." The courtyard exploded. Women shouted. Men surged forward. Elder Chukwu banged his stick repeatedly until order returned. Chief Okonkwo pointed at Tunde with a shaking finger. "The boy is lying. He's been paid to lie." "By whom?" Elder Udoka asked. "A poor girl with no money? Or are you suggesting Mama Ngozi paid him with the palm wine you bought on credit and never paid for?" Another wave of murmurs. Chief Okonkwo's face was red now, sweat beading on his forehead. A woman pushed through the crowd. Adeze, Ego's younger sister, stood before the elders. "I have something to say." Ego grabbed her sister's arm. "Adeze, don't." "He's been gambling for 2 years," Adeze said, shaking off Ego's grip. "Everyone knows it except you, sister. He owes money to half the trading cooperative. I told you months ago something was wrong. You wouldn't listen." Ego's ivory comb fell from her hair and clattered on stone. She stared at her husband as if seeing him for the first time. "You let me accuse that girl. You let me call her a thief. You let her father disown her. For what? To hide your debts? I was going to get it back." Chief Okonkwo's composure finally cracked. "The money was temporary. I just needed time. I could have bought the ring back and no one would have known." "But I was banished early," Amara said softly. "My father moved too fast. And suddenly your plan fell apart." The chief looked at her then, really looked at her. For a moment, something like shame flickered in his eyes. Then it hardened into resentment. "I needed the money. The cooperative was going to seize my land. I thought I could fix it before anyone noticed. You were supposed to be gone. It would have worked if an innocent girl's life hadn't mattered.
Elder Chuku's voice was ice. If her father's shame hadn't mattered, if truth hadn't mattered. Silence fell, heavy and absolute. Ego ripped the gele from her head. Her hair fell loose, a cultural sign of divorce and shame. She took the ivory comb and snapped it in half. The crack echoed like bone breaking. "I will write the apology letter myself," she said to Amara, "and I will read it in this square where your father broke your mother's beads." Elder Chukwu stood, and the courtyard fell silent. His voice carried the weight of 70 years and decades of judgment. "Chief Okonkwo, you have violated our most sacred trust. You fabricated a crime. You manipulated a child. You destroyed a family. You turned this community against an innocent girl to hide your gambling debts." Chief Okonkwo opened his mouth, closed it. His authority was bleeding out of him like water from cracked clay. Elder Okafor spoke next, his voice cold as river stones. "The law is clear. False accusation carries the same punishment as the crime accused. You charged Amara with theft, requiring 21 days of public shame and permanent banishment. Therefore, by our custom, wait." Amara's voice surprised everyone, including herself. She stepped forward. "Elder, may I speak?" The three judges exchanged glances. Elder Chukwu studied her face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Amara turned to face the crowd. 200 pairs of eyes watched her. She found her father's face in the back. He was crying silently, tears cutting tracks through dust on his weathered cheeks. Her brothers stood beside him, heads bowed in shame. "I forgive Chief Okonkwo," she said. The courtyard erupted. Gasps and shouts overlapped. Someone yelled, "He doesn't deserve forgiveness." Another voice, "The girl is weak." A third, "She's stronger than all of us." Elder Chukwu banged his walking stick until silence returned. "I forgive him," Amara repeated, her voice stronger now, "because I deserve peace more than he deserves punishment. Carrying anger is like carrying stones. Eventually, your back breaks. My mother taught me that before she died." She touched the 3 coral beads at her wrist. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending this didn't happen. Chief Okonkwo, you hurt me. You hurt my family. You used your power to crush someone with none. You taught a child to lie. You made your wife an unwitting accomplice to your crime." Chief Okonkwo's shoulders sagged. He looked 10 years older than he had an hour ago. "I forgive you so I can heal," Amara continued. "Not so you can escape consequences. Justice and mercy can exist together." Mama Ngozi stepped forward, pride shining in her eyes. "The girl speaks wisdom. This is how we rebuild a broken community, with truth, consequences, and the choice to release bitterness." Elder Chukwu's expression softened. "Rare wisdom from one so young. But justice still requires restitution. The scales must balance." "I know," Amara said. "I'm not asking you to ignore what he did. I'm asking you to remember that vengeance and justice are not the same thing." The 3 elders conferred quietly. The courtyard waited in breathless silence. A baby cried and was quickly shushed. Someone coughed. Wind rustled through the palm trees beyond the compound walls. Finally, Elder Chukwu stood, leaning heavily on his walking stick. "Our judgment is as follows. Chief Okonkwo must pay Amara 50,000 naira within 30 days,
compensation for lost wages, suffering, and destroyed reputation. This will be held in trust by the elders until Amara decides how to use it." He paused, letting the weight settle. Chief Okonkwo must publicly apologize here and now before these witnesses. His title of chief is suspended for 1 full year. During this time, he will work alongside common laborers to repay his debts honestly. If he repeats such behavior, permanent banishment will follow. Is this understood? Chief Okonkwo stood slowly. "Yes, elder." "Then speak your apology." The chief turned to Amara. His voice was rough, stripped of its usual command. "Amara, daughter of Namdi, I wronged you terribly. I let my desperation and pride destroy an innocent person. I betrayed the trust my position requires. I am deeply sorry. I will spend this year learning to be a better man." It wasn't eloquent, but it was real. Amara saw genuine shame in his eyes, and something that might become remorse with time. Elder Udoka addressed Ego next. "You also participated in this false accusation, Madam Ego. Though your husband deceived you, you were quick to condemn without sufficient evidence. You let class prejudice guide your judgment." Ego's face was stone, but her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "You must write a formal apology letter," Elder Udoka continued, "and read it publicly in the village square where Namdi disowned his daughter. You will do this before sunset today. Additionally, you will pay Amara 10,000 naira from your personal dowry, separate from your husband's debt, as restitution for your individual role." Ego nodded stiffly. "I will, elder. I will do more than that. I will," her voice cracked, "I will spend the rest of my life trying to repair what I destroyed." She turned to Amara, ripping the gele from her head. Her hair fell loose, a cultural sign of divorce and devastating shame. She took the ivory comb that had been tucked in the fabric and snapped it in half. The crack echoed like bone breaking. "I will write the letter myself," she said directly to Amara. "Not because the elders commanded it, because you deserve words written in my own hand, with my own shame as ink." The broken pieces of the ivory comb fell at her feet. "And Tunde." Elder Okafor looked at the trembling boy who still stood in the center of the courtyard, small and frightened. "Come here, child." Tunde approached on shaking legs. "You were used by a powerful man," Elder Okafor said gently. "You were placed in an impossible position. But you found the courage to speak truth despite your fear. That courage matters." Tunde's face crumpled with relief. "However, actions have consequences even when we're forced into them. You will work for Mama Ngozi for 6 months without pay, not as punishment, but to learn what honest labor looks like. She will teach you the integrity your employer failed to model." Mama Ngozi put her hand on Tunde's shoulder. "He'll learn well, elder, I promise you that." Tunde looked up at Amara, his eyes red and swollen. "Will you forgive me too?" Amara knelt in front of him. "I already have, Tunde. You're just a child. You were scared. I understand that." "I'll work hard," he whispered. "I'll make it right." "I know you will." Elder Chukwu's gaze swept the entire courtyard, touching every face. "Let this be a lesson to all who gather here. Power without honor is tyranny. Wealth without character is worthless. Status without justice is poison. We have allowed a man's position to blind us to truth. We have allowed poverty to make us doubt innocence.
We have allowed fear to silence our consciences." He banged his walking stick 3 times, each strike resonating like a drum. "No more. This community will do better. We will question more. We will see the humanity in the powerless. We will remember that today an innocent girl nearly lost everything because we valued comfort over truth. This trial is concluded. Let healing begin." The courtyard erupted into motion and noise. Some people surged toward Amara, hands reaching to touch her shoulder, her arm, offering blessings and apologies. Others surrounded the chief, their voices angry and righteous. Still others clustered in small groups, processing what they'd witnessed. Amara's father pushed through the crowd. He dropped to his knees in front of his daughter, hands clasped in supplication. His weathered face was wet with tears. "Amara, my daughter, my precious daughter, what have I done? What have I done to you?" She looked down at him, this man who'd raised her after her mother died, who'd taught her to gut fish and mend nets and read weather in clouds. Who'd been so consumed by fear and debt that he'd sacrificed his child to preserve his son's marriage prospects. "You chose Chidi and Obi over me," she said quietly. "You broke Mama's beads without asking if I was guilty. You kicked dirt on my hands when I tried to gather the pieces. You called me dead and walked away." "I was wrong," the words tore out of him. "I was terrified. The chief owns my debts. Your brothers need marriages to escape poverty. I thought I was saving the family, but I destroyed it instead. I destroyed you." "You couldn't destroy me, Papa. I'm still here." She knelt so they were eye to eye. "I forgive you. I forgive you because Mama would want me to. Because holding hatred will hurt me more than it hurts you. Because forgiveness is the only way I can truly be free." Hope flared in his eyes like sun through clouds. "But," she continued, and the hope flickered, "forgiveness doesn't mean everything goes back to how it was. You destroyed something between us. The trust I had in you, that you would protect me, believe in me, choose me, that trust is gone. I'll earn it back. I'll do anything." "Maybe you will. Maybe someday we can build something new between us. But not today. Not yet. I need time to heal. I need space to remember who I am without your shame covering me." Namdi's face crumpled like paper in fire. "How much time?" "I don't know, Papa. Maybe months, maybe years, maybe never." That's not a punishment. That's just truth. You broke something precious. Some things, once broken, can't be put back together exactly as they were. She stood, helping him to his feet. He was trembling, aging before her eyes. "I forgive you," she repeated, "but I don't trust you. Trust is rebuilt slowly, with consistent action. Or it isn't rebuilt at all. That's your choice to make, not mine to grant." She turned and walked toward Mama Ngozi, leaving her father standing in the courtyard with his grief and his surviving sons who wouldn't meet his eyes. Mama Ngozi wrapped an arm around her shoulders. That took more strength than vengeance ever could. "I learned from the best." They walked together through the parting crowd. Women who'd spit at Amara 3 weeks ago now nodded respectfully, shamefaced. The old man who'd brought her news about Ego's rumors smiled and raised both hands in blessing. Children stared with wide eyes, witnessing something they'd remember for the rest of their lives. Young mothers whispered to each other, "Remember this. Remember that girl who chose dignity over revenge." At the compound gate, Amara paused and looked back one final time. Chief Okonkwo sat slumped in his chair, no longer a chief, just a desperate man who'd gambled everything and lost. Ego stood with her sister Adaisy, both women's faces hard with the work of rebuilding shattered trust. Tunde clung to Mamangozi's other hand, young and frightened but no longer alone. And her father stood in the center of the courtyard, watching his daughter walk away for the second time. This time, though, she walked with her head high. She walked with purpose. She walked toward a future she would build herself, brick by brick, choice by choice. That evening, as promised, Ego stood in the village square where Namdi had disowned Amara. The sun hung low and red, painting everything the color of her scattered coral beads. A crowd gathered, smaller than before, but still substantial, curious, hungry for this next chapter. Ego wore no head wrap, no jewelry, simple clothes. Her hair loose in cultural acknowledgement of shame and divorce proceedings begun that afternoon. Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper she'd written in her own hand. To Amara, daughter of Namdi, she read, her voice barely carrying across the gathering. I accused you falsely. I let my pride and jealousy blind me to truth. I looked at your youth and beauty and saw a threat instead of an innocent girl just trying to survive. She paused, composing herself. I called you a thief when you were innocent. I destroyed your name to protect what I thought was mine. I turned this community against you because it was easier than questioning my own husband. I am deeply, profoundly sorry. Ego's voice grew stronger. I will spend the rest of my life working to repair the damage I have done. I will donate 10,000 naira to a fund for young women wrongly accused. I will speak against hasty judgment. I will remember your face every time I am tempted to think position makes me better than another human being. She folded the paper and looked directly at Amara, who stood at the edge of the crowd beside Mamangozi. I cannot undo what I did. I can only try to do better going forward. I hope someday you can think of me without pain. That is more than I deserve, but it is what I pray for. Amara said nothing, but she nodded once, a single acknowledgement that the apology had been heard, if not yet fully accepted. Some wounds needed more than words to heal. Some wounds needed years. As the crowd dispersed, murmuring among themselves about justice and mercy and the strange grace of a 19-year-old girl, Amara walked to the exact spot where her coral beads had scattered 3 weeks ago. The packed earth showed no trace of that day. Rain and feet and time had erased the physical evidence, but memory remained. She knelt and pressed her palm flat against the ground. The earth was still warm from the day's sun. Thank you, Mama, she whispered to her mother's spirit, to the sky, to whatever force had carried her through, for teaching me that grace is a choice, not a feeling, for showing me that strength lives in quiet places, for giving me these beads that became my anchor when everything else was stripped away. She stood slowly, brushing dust from her wrapper. Mamangozi waited a respectful distance away, giving her this moment of private grief and gratitude. Ready? The older woman asked. Yes, Amara said, and she meant it. They walked back together through the village as darkness fell, and cooking fires lit up doorways. Back to the small shop where palm wine waited in clay pots. Back to the room with the straw mat and single window. Back to the life Amara had built from nothing but work and dignity and the stubborn refusal to let other people's lies define her truth. Tomorrow she would climb palm trees. She would collect sap and serve customers and save her wages. She would continue the work of healing, one sunrise at a time, one choice at a time. She would build a future that belonged to her alone, not assigned by fathers or chiefs or the cruel machinery of false accusations. But tonight she stood at her small window and looked at the 3 coral beads on the sill. Moonlight touched them, and they glowed like embers, like promises, like the quiet, unbreakable core of a girl who'd learned that survival was just the beginning. Forgiveness was the middle, and freedom was still ahead, waiting to be claimed. 6 months passed like water moving downstream, steady, inevitable, transforming everything it touched. The village changed in small ways first. Elder Chukwu convened the council and established new protocols. No one could be publicly accused of serious crimes without evidence presented simultaneously. 3 independent witnesses or physical proof became mandatory before any trial. The new law was carved into a wooden board and posted beside the baobab tree in the village square. "Let this stand as reminder," Elder Chukwu said at the unveiling ceremony. "Power unchecked becomes tyranny. Accusation without evidence becomes murder by reputation. We nearly destroyed an innocent life because we forgot to question authority." The board remained, weathering rain and sun, a permanent testament to the cost of blind belief. Chief Okonkwo worked those 6 months like a man possessed. He rose before dawn and worked alongside farmers in their fields, laborers at construction sites, fishermen at their nets. His hands, once soft from delegating work to others, developed calluses and scars. His back bent under loads of yam and cassava. His pride cracked and reformed into something harder and more useful: humility. He repaid his gambling debts slowly, kobo by kobo. The palm wine cooperative received 15,000 naira. Mama Ngozi marked it paid in her ledger with firm, satisfied strokes. Other creditors followed. By the 5th month, Chief Okonkwo's debts were cleared. He delivered 50,000 naira to the village elders in a sealed envelope. Elder Udoka counted it carefully before handing it to Amara in Mama Ngozi's presence. "This is yours," the elder said. "Use it wisely." Amara held the envelope, feeling its weight. 50,000 naira. More money than she'd ever imagined possessing. Enough to change her life completely. "Thank you, Elder." That evening she and Mama Ngozi sat at the small table in the shop, the money spread before them. "What will you do with it?" Mama Ngozi asked. Amara had been thinking about this for weeks. 10,000 goes to a savings account for nursing school. That's been my dream since Mama died, to learn healing so no one else has to die of fever that could be treated. Mama Ngozi smiled. "Good. And the rest?" 20,000 to expand your palm wine business. New trees, better equipment, maybe hire 2 more workers. You gave me everything when I had nothing. Let me give back. "Child, you don't owe me." "I know, but I want to." "Partners split profits, yes?" Mama Ngozi's eyes glistened. "Partners, yes. The remaining 20,000 gets split 3 ways. 5,000 to a fund for young women who need legal help, the kind Elder Chukwu mentioned. 10,000 saved for my brother's marriages when they're ready. And 5,000, Amara paused. 5,000 for Papa, for his deaths to other families, not as reconciliation, as release, so he can't use poverty as an excuse anymore." "That's generous, more generous than he deserves." "Maybe, but it's not for him, it's for me. So I can be free of the obligation he thinks I owe him." The money was distributed exactly as planned. The palm wine cooperative became an official business, registered with proper papers. Mama Ngozi hired 2 young women from struggling families, paying fair wages and teaching them the trade. The trees multiplied. The reputation spread. Within 4 months, they were supplying 3 neighboring villages. Amara enrolled in evening classes at the regional health clinic, studying basic medicine and nursing protocols. She climbed palm trees at dawn, attended classes in the afternoon, served customers in the evening. Her days were full and exhausting, and exactly what she needed. Tunde completed his 6 months working for Mama Ngozi. The boy transformed under her patient teaching. He learned to tap trees, manage accounts, speak honestly even when truth was uncomfortable. On his final day, Mama Ngozi offered him permanent employment at full wages. "You earned this," she said. "You chose truth over safety. That matters." Tunde looked at Amara. "Do you forgive me? Really?" "Really," she said. "You were a child used by an adult. You corrected your mistake when it mattered most. That's called courage." He worked for them for another year before his family moved to the city for better opportunities, but he never forgot. Years later, he would tell his own children about the girl who forgave him when she had every reason not to. Ego divorced Chief Okonkwo formally in the 4th month. She moved in with her sister Adaeze and started a small weaving business. She never remarried. Once a month she came to Mama Ngozi's shop to buy palm wine, and she always asked about Amara. "Is she well?" "She's well." "Good. That's good." They never became friends, but the hostility faded into a cautious, distant respect. Ego kept her promise. She spoke publicly about the dangers of hasty judgment, particularly toward young women and the poor. She funded the legal aid fund Amara had started. She attended community meetings and questioned decisions that seemed unjust. "I'm trying," she told Adaeze one evening. "I'm trying to become someone I can respect." "That's all any of us can do," her sister replied. Chief Okonkwo's title was restored after his year of suspension, but he never regained his former authority. The community respected his work ethic and his visible reformation, but trust, once shattered, rebuilt slowly. He served as an elder, but no longer as chief. A younger man, known for fairness and transparency, assumed that role. Okonkwo attended the church faithfully. He sat in the back and listened without speaking. He nodded at Amara when their paths crossed, but never approached her directly. He understood that some bridges, once burned, could only be mourned, not rebuilt. Amara's relationship with her father remained complicated. Namdi sent letters monthly for the first 3 months. Amara read each one but responded to none. The letters spoke of regret, of sleepless nights, of the coral beads he'd recovered from the dust and kept on his own windowsill like a shrine to his failure. In the 4th month, Chidi and Obi, her brothers, came to Mama Ngozi's shop. They stood awkwardly at the entrance, hats in hand. "May we speak with you?" Chidi asked. Amara invited them to sit. She served them palm wine from her own hands, and the symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. "We were wrong," Obi said, his voice cracked. "We stood silent when Papa disowned you. We protected our marriage prospects and let our sister be destroyed. We were cowards." "You were scared," Amara said. "Fear makes people small." "We want you back in the family," Chidi said. "We've talked to Papa. He's different now. Broken, but maybe better for being broken." "Will you consider—" "Not yet," Amara interrupted gently. "I'm still healing. But someday, maybe someday we can sit together at a meal and remember Mama and not let Papa's shame sit between us." The brothers accepted this. They left promising to return, to wait however long it took, to prove they'd learned that family meant protecting each other, not sacrificing the weakest to save the stronger. She'd saved money to buy a proper headstone, simple but permanent, with her mother's name and dates carved deep. She planted flowers around a base, red flowers, the color of coral beads and spilled truth and the stubborn refusal to accept lies as destiny. "Mama," she said aloud, "I survived, more than survived. I'm building something new. I have work I'm proud of, friends who chose me when blood family couldn't, a future that belongs to me." She touched the 3 coral beads around her wrist. "I kept these safe, just like you kept me safe, even after you were gone. Your love was stronger than Papa's fear, than the chief's cruelty, than all of it." A breeze moved through the trees. Amara chose to believe it was her mother's spirit, pleased and proud. She walked back to the village as the sun set, casting everything in gold and crimson. Mama Ngozi waited at the shop entrance, arms crossed but eyes warm. "Big day tomorrow," the older woman said. "I know." First day of formal nursing school. Nervous? Terrified? Excited? Both. Good. That means you're alive. Mama Ngozi pulled her into a quick, fierce hug. "Your mother would be so proud. I'm proud. Now go rest. Tomorrow you change your life again." That night, Amara lay on her mat, no longer straw but a proper mattress she'd bought with her own wages, and stared at the ceiling. The 3 coral beads sat on the windowsill, glowing in moonlight. She thought about the girl she'd been a year ago, terrified, alone, disowned, and accused. That girl had wanted only to survive. The woman she was becoming wanted more, wanted education, purpose, justice for others trapped as she'd been trapped, wanted a life defined not by what had been done to her, but by what she chose to do next. She closed her eyes and slept deeply, dreamlessly, free. 3 years later. Amara stood in the doorway of her own small clinic, hand-painted sign above reading Grace Medical Center in neat blue letters. The name honored her mother and the grace that had carried her through darkness into light. The clinic was simple: 4 rooms, examination, pharmacy, waiting area, office. But it was hers. Built with savings from the palm wine business, a small business loan she'd qualified for with perfect credit, and donations from women's groups who'd heard her story. Mama Ngozi arrived for the opening ceremony wearing her finest wrapper and a smile that could light the village. "Look at you, a nurse, a business owner, still climbing my palm trees at dawn when clinic is closed." "Partners," Amara reminded her. "Forever." "Forever," Mama Ngozi agreed. The ceremony was simple. Elder Chukwu blessed the building. Women from 3 villages attended, many bringing their children for free health checks Amara offered. Young girls stared at her with wide eyes, seeing possibility they'd never imagined before. "If she can survive being disowned and accused and come back stronger," one mother whispered, "maybe my daughter can finish school. Maybe she can be more than I was." That was the point. That was always the point. Chief Okonkwo came, standing at the back of the crowd. He didn't speak to Amara directly, but left an envelope with Elder Chukwu. Inside was 1,000 naira and a note, "For your pharmacy supplies. May you heal what I helped break." Amara used the money to buy malaria medication for families who couldn't afford it. Ego attended with her sister Adeze. She'd become a successful weaver, her fabric sold in city markets. She gave Amara a beautiful wrapper as a gift, purple and gold, colors of royalty and dignity. "For important occasions," Ego said, "you've earned every thread." "Thank you," Amara said, and she meant it. Forgiveness had become easier with time and distance. Not forgetting, never forgetting, but the wound had scarred over, tender but no longer bleeding. Tunde arrived from the city, now 17 and studying business administration on a scholarship. He worked at the clinic every holiday, organizing supplies and managing accounts. "You gave me a second chance," he always said. "Let me earn it every day." Amara's brothers came with their new wives, both good women from respectable families. The weddings had happened quietly, funded partly by the money Amara had gifted. Chidi and Obi had slowly rebuilt relationship with their sister through consistent effort, showing up, helping at the clinic, proving family could mean protection instead of betrayal. But their father didn't come. Namdi remained in his fishing hut, too ashamed to face his daughter even 3 years later. He sent gifts through his sons, dried fish, a repaired net he thought she could sell, awkward tokens of love he didn't know how to speak aloud. Amara accepted them without comment. The door wasn't locked, but he had to choose to walk through it. She couldn't do that work for him. As sunset painted the sky red, coral red, the color of beads and truth and blood that flows but doesn't kill, Amara stood in her clinic and looked at the line of patients still waiting, mothers with sick children. Elderly farmers with aching joints, young women seeking prenatal care, all of them trusting her, all of them proof that she'd transformed pain into purpose. Mama Ngozi appeared in the doorway. "You're exhausted. Close for today. They'll come back tomorrow." 5 more patients, then I'm done. The older woman smiled. "Stubborn, just like your mother. I learned from 2 strong women. Mama gave me roots, you gave me wings." Poetic. Now treat those last 5 patients so we can eat. "I made your favorite, plantain and beans, just like that first morning under the Iroko tree." Full circle. As Amara worked through those final patients, she felt her mother's presence. Not literally, she didn't believe in ghosts. But memory and love were their own kind of presence, their own kind of permanence. "I did it, Mama," she whispered between patients. "I survived. I forgave. I built something good from something terrible." I hope that makes you proud. The 3 coral beads were no longer on her wrist. They sat in a small glass box in her office, preserved and honored. She'd added 16 more beads, 1 for each year since her mother's death. One day the necklace would be complete again. Different, but complete. After the last patient left, Amara locked the clinic door and walked home with Mama Ngozi through the village that had once rejected her. People nodded respectfully. Mothers pointed her out to daughters as an example. Children waved. She'd become part of the village's story, the girl who was falsely accused and came back stronger, the girl who forgave but kept boundaries, the girl who turned ashes into healing. This is one of the most powerful African stories you'll ever hear, where real-life stories of injustice met touching stories of grace, where a life story became a lesson that changed an entire community. So here's my question for you. What would you do if falsely accused? Would you fight or flee? Choose revenge or grace? Drop your answer in the comments below. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that survival is possible, that grace is strength, that truth always rises. Subscribe for more life stories that challenge, heal, and inspire. Next week, when a chief's son stole land, a talking drum spoke justice. You won't want to miss it. And remember, your mother's beads, whatever form they take, are still with you. Hold them close. Let them remind you who you are when the world tries to tell you otherwise. Forgiveness heals the forgiver. Truth rises slowly but inevitably. And grace? Grace is always a choice.